The National Department of Transport is dragging its heels on the devolution of rail. This is according to the Democratic Alliance in the city of Cape Town. Rob Quintas is the head of transport in the city and joins me now. A very good afternoon to you, Rob. Thanks very much for your time. What makes you think that the National Department of Transport is indeed dragging its heels on the devolution of rail?
So I think it is quite fair, though, to say that we've seen two new ministers since the first announcement when the devolution of rail became a white paper, which served in 2022 during the tenure of then Fikile Mbalula. Since then, we've had a change of minister again to then Minister Chikunga, and we're now sitting with Minister Barbara Creecy, who I feel may very well be that sort of new broom that is desperately needed to get this conversation tabled back in appropriate channels and fora where the city can present its arguments and discuss with the National Department of Transport our feasibility study, which we began in earnest in 2022, and which we are about 70% of the way through already, ahead of our three-year timeline. The reality, however, is that since the white paper was presented to the cabinet in 2022, there's been one large imbizo that I certainly was invited to, which was held in Ekurhuleni at one of the large Prasa stations. And since then, it has been a fairly quiet process where we've been requesting information, requesting for engagements. But I'm confident that there may be some movement with the new minister, who I'm hoping to see, according to her office. I will be seeing Minister Creecy, probably along with the mayor, towards the latter part of this month, bearing in mind that there are only sort of a week and a half left of August. But we are hopeful that the conversation can be tabled and that the cooperation, which we certainly would like to have with the National Department of Transport, comes into being under Minister Creecy.
What are the consequences of further delays for the city?
The greatest consequence really is for the economy of Cape Town, particularly for the economy of households within Cape Town. And to put into perspective, a functional rail system, which in any developed or developing city around the world is the backbone of the public transport system, provides an affordable, safe, reliable, scheduled public transport that can move masses of people. It's a mass public mover at very little cost in comparison to other modes of transport. Now, the minibus taxi industry is a valued part of the public transport ecosystem, as are the My City bus service, naturally, and Golden Arrow bus services and other passenger bus services within the Cape Town Metro. However, if we just look at minibus taxis, for example, which are often able to get into communities, get people to work and back, some households, some of those working class households, are spending between 40 and sometimes even just upward of 50% of their household earnings on minibus taxi transportation. Now, that is a lot of money that could be utilized for school books, stationery, greater nutrition in the household, electricity, purchase of, you name it. That is 60% to 40% of that income is spent just on getting to and from work every day. Whereas a functional rail service, where people not only feel safe enough to take the train, but where the trains are operating, and not only just operating, but also operating on a regular scheduled service that you can set your clock by. Until we reach there, commuters are left with very little option other than utilizing minibus taxis, Golden Arrow, My City, or a combination thereof. And we really want to see Cape Townians getting out of their vehicles, which it's expensive. Number one, even for your private car owner, to utilize their own vehicles with the cost of fuel, you're adding to congestion, you're adding to carbon emissions. We want to see a Cape Town where rail takes its rightful place as the mass public transport mover or mover of people in an affordable and scheduled and reliable manner.
Have you been able to establish whether the Department of Transport is doing this deliberately, or whether it's just being inefficient? And perhaps more importantly, have you been able to raise your concerns with them?
The city has raised its concerns on the length of time that this process is taking from its inception, as I mentioned, the white paper in 2022. We're now in the last quarter of 2024 without any meaningful overtures around really tabling this program of devolution. And I think it's also important to mention, though, that the city is not hard and fast. We're not working on a hostile takeover of Praza. Our objective is simple: a reliable, affordable, scheduled rail system to be back up and running in the city of Cape Town. And our feasibility is looking at multiple different models of how that can come about, ranging from the two of the most undesirable, which is the first one doing absolutely nothing, and the last of sort of 6 models, which is that the city takes on the management and funding of that program, which of course would bankrupt the city in very short order. We've got these various models. Some of them look to that public-private partnership arrangement, which the white paper actually speaks to as well. So we have a few working examples and models that we would like to present once we've completed our study, which will be towards the very end of this year or very, very early next year. But we are embracing national government at this point, saying we are wanting to be partners in this program with you to get our commuters on the move and to get people out of their cars and into trains again. But I don't want to politicize. I don't want to politicize this discussion in that are they being difficult. I think to be fair, as I said, Minister Creasy is my 3rd minister since my tenure as the MMC for Urban Mobility in the city of Cape Town. And I believe the minister is understandably finding her feet and grappling with some very large issues across the portfolio of her department that she has to deal with. There are undeniably some very big problems at Praza. I mean, this is not clandestine secret knowledge. Praza has been in the newspapers a lot, has been mentioned in the Zondo Commission. So I think there's a lot of things which need to take place behind the scenes to clear it up and get it working, and then maybe be in a better position to have the conversation with us going forward at a NDOT and Praza level. But I certainly hope that the National Department of Transport is acting in the same good faith that the city of Cape Town is acting in.
Rob Quintas, thank you very much for your time. He's a member of the mayoral committee in the city of Cape Town.